So I want to have a little bit of a conversation with you on today's video, because usually on this channel, I'm helping you simplify a video creation process, and we do it more so in a tech aspect. We take a look at the cameras, we take a look at the lens, we'll talk about YouTube things, but I want to address the question that comes through via DMs, that comes through via emails, and all the other forms of communication that I get reached out to in regards to the return on investment. This becomes a question that a lot of people have because they look at the amount of time that it's taking to just even learn the what to buys, for example, and if that's going to be right for you, because everybody suggests some of everything and why it may be best for them in certain use cases and things like that. I try to come at things from the perspective of the entrepreneur that has a business. You already have something that is requiring your time, and figuring out what is going to fit best into the type of content that we generally make. When it comes down to the gear, now there is the aspect of learning it and hooking it up and all those different things. So that in itself is an estimation of time. And when you look at all the time and financial investment, now you're like, when is this going to start to pay off? Completely understandable. However, if the only perspective that you're having with why you're getting started in video is because you're looking at it from a financial side, this may not be the best thing for you, simply because video is the long game. However, in the same sense, it's a double-sided sword in that video is already the shortcut to the shortcut. There are a lot of forms and mediums of communication when it comes to audio and podcasting, and that's really deep one-to-one personal connection, right? The other thing could be written. You could have blog posts and all kinds of things, and people take time out and they read that, and they can even hear your voice through the written text. Video content really takes a step above all the rest because it lets you see the quirks, it lets you see the personalities, it lets you see all of the little micro nuances of being a person and connecting with people that you just cannot get in any of those other mediums of communication. And it's not to say that any of those are bad or less than, but I just believe video is better. I think if you're only comparing it to the time that it takes to acquire a client, the time that it takes to retain a client, and all of the resources that go into that, to try to compare something that you're completely new and a new space and a new field, in addition to learning the platform and a ton of other things, I think that is not comparable in that sense, but I do get it because you only have 24 hours in a day, as we all do. So the way that you make video work for you in your business when you are already pressed for time, you have to understand a few things. And the first thing is that having a framework for recording your content. That means to say, when you sit down and do a video, is there a way to record your beginning, your middle, and your end? For tutorial pieces, for example, if you take a look across any of my last 50 videos even, then you'll see there is a process and a framework for how I go through video content. If you look at any of the tutorial content, there is a beginning, middle, and end type framework that I use when I'm sitting down to go through all of those different pieces of the content to make sure by the time the viewer gets to the end of the video, they get the end result goal that they want, or they know what the right next step is that they can take or should take. So there's just two forms of content, like tutorials and training type videos. The other thing is to understand, like if you're doing documentary style vlogging, which I think is the easiest form for a lot of entrepreneurs to get into because it doesn't require much more of your time. It really is about capturing what you are already doing. So once you have a framework for your content, the other thing that you want to be able to do is to understand what works for you. I know exactly where my audio level should be. I know where it works for the camera placement in this particular home office space. And I know what I traditionally stick to because I know exactly the settings that I want to use and all the different things. So I'm repeating the process, so much so that I used what infomercials would call it's like the set it and forget it. I know exactly how something is going to come out, and it makes creating content much more efficient simply because I can sit down, record the piece, edit the piece, and export, and we're up to watching the content. Once you do that, then the creation part becomes much easier. Now, when it comes to the production side of things, there's a couple options that you have. You can send that to an editor and have an editor do that for you. I'm even going through that process and documenting that. So when the time comes, you'll be able to see, video content in regards to how do you hire an editor? What are the options that are available to you? And what are some of the things that I found to work best for me? And if you want to edit videos yourself, because you figure like I will at least want to know what goes into it and how to do that, that's when the framework helps. And I have videos that I'll put a link to down in the description as well that walks you through what are some of my tips for when recording that make it easier. So when I take stuff into editing, how that works. So it makes it easier. So I'm not spending a ton of time in editing, fighting myself, trying to crank out a video. So the last piece when it comes to the time investment required when you're talking about getting started in video is the constant recommitment to staying and to doing the work, meaning it is an initial commitment, and that's somewhat easy when it comes to, the getting started, because buying stuff is fun. Getting things set up is fun. But now comes the hard work and the keep showing up, or showing up when it hurts. And I don't mean like when it hurts because you got a bad content. I mean like when your back hurts, okay, when your knee's acting up again, or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like stuff like that. When you just got home from the doctor and today was the day that you set aside to record your content and you really aren't feeling like it and you have to push through even when you don't want to. That's what I mean. It just don't work like that. Look at some of the things that your people say that they love or that they have problems with all the time. And you think about what are some of those first video ideas that I should be making. That's an easy way to get started and the kind of videos that you can start creating. I actually did a video that walks you through some of the 5 different forms of content that I think entrepreneurs should be taking advantage of, and that is going to make things a little bit easier for you. You click on the video on the screen if you want to check those out. But I hope that this video gave you some context and a little bit of insight into the investment of time when it comes to doing video content, and if it's going to be worth it for you, because I think it will.